Can you describe the programs and services that your charity offers to the community?
So at Arrive Alive Drive Sober, we provide numerous programs and activities for the community. We go to events and raise awareness about the dangers of impaired driving. So through that, it's either with our quiz that talks about the consequences of impaired driving. We have materials that we hand out to the community, including our Passport to Safety, insurance folders. We also have PSAs that are aired on television and on the radio. We're very happy that we get about $18 million a year donated in television airtime and radio airtime.
So what groups of people do you focus on, and how do they find out about you?
We focus on numerous groups of people, any licensed driver, young or novice, and any adult driver. We also try and focus on really just kind of anyone living in the country who could be affected by impaired driving. So whether that's a passenger, so they might not have a driver's license, but they're a passenger of an impaired driver, we like to raise awareness that that's also dangerous, and that the passenger has the ability to call 911, report them as crime in progress, and should also do their part to prevent impaired driving.
Okay, so why are the programs and services designed the way they are?
Our programs are designed the way they are. We've been around for 30 years now, so it's taken us a little bit of time to perfect everything, get everything together. We've tried numerous programs in a variety of ways, and what we have now has been kind of the best practices throughout our time. After 30 years, you're able to be like, this didn't work too well, this worked the best, so let's only focus on what has worked and kind of fine-tune those as well and keep evolving. I very much believe in the mindset of as soon as you believe that you are perfect and you can't improve anymore, that's when you start to fail. So we always try and look at how we can improve things. Even if something was successful, there's always an area of improvement.
Okay, has the charity faced any challenges in being about to deliver its programming and services?
Yeah, we face numerous challenges. As a charity, funding is always a challenge for us. We go through a lot of times where there's not so much money coming in, then we go through times where we have a very steady amount coming in with sponsorship, donations, and we are able to run more programs. One of the biggest pieces of backlashes we get is through our video PSAs and out in events when people they're just being people and they're saying that, oh, well, I drive better drunk, or oh, like I drove drunk last night, just the jokes like that. And there's a very small percentage of the population that still chooses to drink and drive, but that small percentage is still harming and killing a lot of people on our roads. And I feel like it's the backlash from people who try and make jokes about it or don't take it as seriously, think our messaging is making it a happy issue, when really we just promote planning ahead. And we're fine, if you want to go out and drink, go for it. Just plan ahead, be responsible, and try and get home safe.
So could you give us an example or tell us a story about one individual or group of people that you've helped?
So we actually have numerous victims of impaired driving on our board and on our committees, or who volunteer with us at events. One of our board members, actually, she lost both of her children to impaired driving at separate times, which is really just a tragedy. And so through her work with us and with us supporting her, she's able to share her children's story and promote that messaging to other students. So she's always one of the people who I like to see out there at events speaking to high schoolers. She's actually a school bus driver now, and she talks to her kids all the time about safe and sober driving. And even just the numerous of other victims that are out there that contact us, we're always happy to talk with them and support them. And if they want to get involved and try and get back so that tragedy doesn't happen to anyone else, we enjoy working with them there.
So how have you made a difference to the community?
Well, over 30 years, impaired driving fatalities in Ontario have declined over 75%. So in our first year, there was about 400 or so fatalities a year, and now there's less than 100. So I think that speaks volumes to the difference that's been made in the community, and also just the public perception about impaired driving. 30 years ago was perfect. It was a common thought to go, oh, well, I've only had a beer, I can drive home, or oh, like driving home, that's a way to save money on a cab. Whereas now people, I feel like it's ingrained in their minds to plan ahead, and a lot of people now, it's a social norm that you don't drink and
So, what are some of the charity's proudest moments, best successes, or smallest successes? The little things that have made a difference.
With 30 years, we have had quite a few successes. Our Choose Your Ride campaign has been an enormous success throughout the country, and a lot of people now use that one as a kind of a best practice for how they model their stuff. And Choose Your Ride is also used by numerous police stations, community groups. We hold the copyright on that one, so anyone who's using Choose Your Ride does have to seek our permission. And it's been a very common messaging where it's after a night out, you can choose your ride, either get home safe or you can end up in an ambulance, police car, or we have a hearse in there as well to symbolize that you could end up unfortunately dead as a result of drinking and driving. So yeah, things like that. And big successes. Recently we actually had one of our campaigns go viral. We had coasters that were made from wrecked cars, so cars that were involved in collisions that were the cause of impaired driving. We made coasters out of those cars and put them in a bar on St. Patrick's Day, and there was a crazy amount of media attention. We had over 120 articles written about them. We had calls from Australia, Germany, and all of these other countries around the world all wanting to talk about them and order some. We really liked it because it promoted safe and sober driving and made people think on arguably one of the biggest drinking days of the year.
So if the charity left, how would it affect the community?
Well, I think if we disappeared, we're considered by a lot of people as the meeting ground for impaired driving information in Ontario. And I think if that disappeared, a lot of our partners and community members would lose a link to everyone else. And a lot of information that comes to us, our responsibility is to take government legislation and kind of make it in a more easy to read and easy to digest format. So we take all the complicated bills and put them into very simple terms. And I think without us, that effect would be lost. And also the fact that we get so much PSA time and radio time, it gets the message out there, and a lot of people hear it through those mediums. And I think if that disappeared, impaired driving rates might go up.
So what else could people do to help address the social issue?
Well, one of the things that I like to tell people that it's one thing if you're a driver and you plan ahead and do the right steps. It's another that responsibility on the passengers as well. If you're at a party and you may not be driving, but you see someone else is about to drive, you can actually call 911 and report them as a crime in progress, and police will come, track down the car, and remove that driver from the roads. So we like to encourage not just drivers, but all road users to report impaired drivers and to get home safe.
Okay, so let's do the next part.
When did your charity begin?
We began in 1988.
And who founded it?
Our founder was Peter Wong. So he was one of the godfathers of safe and sober driving and pioneered a bunch of charities. He worked with Action Sudbury a lot, and it was because of him that we brought together a lot of different community groups into one meeting ground to talk about impaired driving.
Were there any certain situations that caused the charity to start?
So a lot of our founding board members and Peter Wong, a lot of them were victims of impaired driving, so either themselves were hit from an impaired were victims of an impaired driver, so they either had their children killed or their partners killed or a family member, or they themselves were injured in an impaired driver. Our former executive director, actually, who was around for 28 years, her partner was struck by an impaired driver. Luckily, he wasn't killed, but he was left seriously injured. And that's how a lot of our community people get involved.
And what's your mission?
Our mission is to, through programs and initiatives, end impaired driving in Canada.
Why does your charity address the social issue?
We address the social issue just because it is something that's easily preventable. Impaired driving is a choice. It doesn't happen by accident or by mistake. People choose to get behind the wheel after drinking, and since it is a choice, it should be something that people can easily make the right choice and not do. So that's why we like to get out there and promote that responsible choice.
What are your charity short-term goals?
Our short-term goals right now, it's to, with cannabis legalization coming up, it's to get out there and raise a lot of awareness about the dangers of smoking weed and driving. We hear from people actually your age who think that they're a better driver, a safer driver, or that, oh, it makes them drive slow, it helps them concentrate more, where in fact it actually affects your reaction time, peripheral vision, a whole bunch of other things that you need while behind the wheel. So that's some of our short-term goals, are to help raise awareness about that. We have a new drug impaired driving educational video that will be shared with every high school by the end of March in 2018. We have a new PSA that'll be coming out, and then also our 30th campaign is this summer. So that's another goal of mine, is to make that successful and not drop the ball on that.
Mm-hmm. What do you hope to accomplish in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, we would like to accomplish more of a steady drug impaired driving messaging campaign. We've had a couple right now in the works, and we'd like to establish one more consistent, similar to our Choose Your Ride campaign. We also would like to see more of a 50-50 split with our messaging. So for the past couple of years, we've been focusing very much on alcohol. Last year and this year, and probably next year, we'll be focusing a lot on drugs. So after the initial legalization honeymoon phase has ended, we would like to balance it out so that we're 50-50 with alcohol and drugs. We also want to do a lot more work with impaired pedestrians, so vulnerable road users. We're very careful in our messaging. We don't encourage anyone to walk home from the bar after drinking, just because pedestrians are road users, and if they are impaired, they also are a risk to drivers on the roads. And unfortunately, there are still people who die each year from walking home from the bar, and because they're drunk, they stumble into traffic.
How does your charity know it is being effective at what it does?
We know we're being effective, just as I've said earlier, the numbers of impaired driving fatalities have decreased in Ontario, about 75%. Impaired driving charges are